You know what's crazy? Most people who struggle to build wealth aren't failing because they don't know what to do. Like, if I asked you right now how to build wealth, you'd probably say something like spend less than you earn, invest the difference, let compound interest work. And you'd be right. It's not complicated. But here's the thing, knowing what to do and actually doing it are completely different, and there's usually one massive obstacle standing in the way. One habit, one pattern, one thing people keep doing that just absolutely destroys their ability to build wealth, even when they're trying to do everything else right. My name is Chris, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, human psychology, and why some people seem to glide through financial challenges while others are constantly stressed about their bank account balance. And what I've realized is that the single biggest thing holding most people back isn't lack of income or bad luck or not understanding investing. It's this: they keep trying to look wealthy instead of actually becoming wealthy. And until you stop doing that, everything else you're trying to do with money is basically pointless. Let's talk about what this actually looks like in real life, because I think most people doing this don't even realize it. Like, you're making decent money and you want your life to reflect that. You want to look successful. You want people to see that you're doing well. So you buy the new iPhone every year or two because having an old phone feels embarrassing. You lease a nice car instead of buying a reliable used one because you want to pull up to places in something that looks good. You live in a nicer apartment or neighborhood than you technically need because the address matters. You wear clothes from recognizable brands. You go to restaurants that are Instagram worthy. You take vacations you can kind of afford, but definitely strain your budget because you see everyone else doing it and you don't want to be the person who never goes anywhere. And here's the insidious part. Every single one of these decisions feels justified in the moment. You work hard. You deserve nice things. Life's short. You should enjoy it, And none of that is wrong exactly, but what you're actually doing is spending money to create the appearance of wealth while simultaneously preventing yourself from building actual wealth. You're choosing to look rich now instead of being rich later, and the gap between those two things is absolutely massive. Here's what people don't understand about actual wealth. Real wealth is invisible. The millionaire next door isn't driving a brand new luxury car. They're driving a 10-year-old Toyota that's paid off. They're not wearing designer clothes. They're wearing normal stuff from normal stores. They're not living in the flashiest house on the block. They're living in a modest place that costs way less than they can afford. And from the outside, they look completely ordinary, maybe even boring. But here's what they have that the person trying to look wealthy doesn't. They have money, like actual money. Money in investment accounts that's growing, money that's generating passive income, money that's buying them freedom and options and the ability to retire early or work less or take risks or just not stress about finances. They have the thing everyone actually wants, which is security and freedom. But they don't look like they have it because they're not spending money on appearances. Meanwhile, the person trying to look wealthy has all the visual markers of success, but none of the actual financial substance. They've got the car and the clothes and the apartment and the lifestyle, but they're broke. Or at least they're not building wealth, which is basically the same thing over the long term. And here's where it gets really painful. The cost of looking wealthy isn't just what you spend, it's what you don't build. Let's say you're spending an extra $1,000 a month on lifestyle upgrades that are primarily about appearances. The nicer car payment instead of driving something paid off, the more expensive apartment than you need, the clothes and restaurants and stuff that's about maintaining an image that's $12,000 a year that you're spending to look successful. Now, what if instead of spending that money, you invested it? At an average 8% return, that $12,000 a year becomes over $1.8 million over 30 years, 1.8 million. That's not an exaggeration. That's just basic compound interest math. So, when you choose to spend that $1,000 a month on looking wealthy, you're not really spending $1,000. You're spending the $1,000,000+ that money would have become. You're trading actual future wealth for the appearance of current wealth. And that might be the most expensive trade you'll ever make, but it goes even deeper than just the numbers. And this is the part that really gets me. When you're spending money to look wealthy, you're training yourself to value the wrong things. You're building your identity around consumption instead of accumulation, around impressing other people instead of building security for yourself. And once you start down that path, it's really hard to get off it, because now your sense of self-worth is tied to having the right stuff, living in the right place, being seen in the right way. So when you get a raise, you don't save it or invest it. You upgrade again, because that's what your new income level is supposed to look like. When you have a good year, you don't build your net worth. You expand your lifestyle to match. And you end up on this treadmill where you're constantly earning more and spending more and looking more successful, but never actually getting anywhere financially. It's exhausting and it's expensive, and it never ends because there's always someone with more, always something nicer, always another level to aspire to. Meanwhile, the person who stopped caring about looking wealthy and focused on being wealthy, they broke that cycle entirely. They realized that nobody actually cares what car they drive, or what phone they have, or where they live. Or if people do care, those aren't people whose opinions matter. They made a decision that their financial security was more important than other people's perception of their success. And that decision, that single shift in priorities, changed everything. They started spending money on things that actually built wealth instead of things that just looked like wealth. They bought appreciating assets instead of depreciating ones. They invested in their future instead of their image. And over time, the gap between them and the person still trying to look wealthy became enormous. Not just in net worth, but in stress levels, in flexibility, in freedom, in quality of life. And here's the thing that nobody wants to hear, but everybody needs to understand. You cannot do both. You cannot build wealth quickly while also spending money to look wealthy. The math doesn't work. You can do one or the other, but you have to choose. And most people, whether they realize it or not, are choosing to look wealthy. They're choosing the new car over the investment account, the expensive apartment over the growing net worth, the vacation that strains their budget over the compound interest that builds their future. And then they wonder why, 5 or 10 years later, they're still broke, still stressed about money, still living paycheck to paycheck, just at a higher income level. Look, here's what you need to do if you actually want to build wealth faster. And I need you to really hear this. Stop spending money to impress people who don't care about you. Stop upgrading your lifestyle every time your income increases. Stop buying things because of how they make you look, and start buying things based on whether they move you toward your actual goals. Drive the boring car, live in the modest place, wear the normal clothes, let people think you're doing fine but not great. Let them underestimate you, because while they're spending money to look successful, you're going to be quietly, invisibly building actual wealth. And in 10, 15, 20 years, when they're still trying to keep up appearances and you're financially independent, you'll realize that the best decision you ever made was to stop caring about looking wealthy and start focusing on being wealthy. Because one of those is expensive, exhausting, and never ending, and the other one is the path to actual freedom. Choose wisely, because you can't afford to keep doing both. If this hit you right where it needed to, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. And if you're ready to see what real wealth actually looks like when you build it the right way, check out what really changes after your investments hit $500,000. I'll see you in the next one.